Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we're joined by Milton Collins. Milton is a business coach, action coach. I was actually on his podcast about a month ago, and I thought it'd be good for the audience to listen in to some different advice around business and maybe some structures and how we might think about business operation. Building a product and a technical product is one component of an operation. And a business, and it's important that we consider all other facets as well. Milton, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Andrew. Anthony, it's good to be here.
I'm happy to have you on board.
Always like to learn a bit about you, so I'd love for you to share your background, your history, and how you ended up in the seat of action coach.
Sure. I grew up on a country farm. My parents had a beef cattle stud and wheat property, which I loved and being involved in. And being on the farm, of course, you work there before school and after school. It's part of the family life, of course, and you contribute right through and weekends. All our friends was in a country area were similar, so we went and visited friends. We did the same thing there too. Then off to boarding school, and then after boarding school and off to Australian National University, where I did economics degree. But what I wanted to do hotel management. But in those days, my parents and the school said that's not a real job. So get off and get a law or business degree first, and then if you want to do something else, you can rest back on that. So I was sort of, coerced into that more than, even though I did a lot of research, I wanted to go to Lausanne in Switzerland to do a hotel course. And I could work my way through that and pay for it, etc. But didn't happen. So ANU, actually loved it. It was great. As a student in Canberra, it was fantastic. And I was a competitive horse rider. So I had a horse up there and I started teaching horse riding, which paid for my going through university.
Oh, brilliant.
So, that's good.
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah, and it was a passion for me, but it was great money. So it worked out very well. And in fact, right through my career, I've ridden at an elite level. So I combined my professional career with horse riding. And but the horse riding, I wrote manuals and tax planning for it when I was in the accounting firm, and developed myself as the Australian expert in performance horses. So that actually, once again, helped pay for all the equestrian side too.
So was it the equestrian side of stuff? Was that where it was? Yeah. Was it cross-country horse riding as well? Was that the whole... Yeah, no, really nice.
Yeah, 3-day eventing. So it was a dressage, the cross-country, the show jumping, what they do at the Olympics.
Yeah, brilliant. Interesting. Yeah. How far did you go with that?
It's an elite level. So I rode internationally throughout Australia. I rode against all the Olympic riders are good mates of mine. We competed together all the time. And I was actually their business advisor and their accountant in every case, and all manager.
Good. What did that teach you about life? That would have been a great experience, just to venture into that world.
Yeah, it was, especially being an accountant, which is so fucking boring. It was really good to get and do something exciting and to train for. Yeah. So I trained every day. I was up at 5 a.m. training horses out in the morning, did that, then off to work, which is a great contrast. But what I learned was, though, it was about that challenge. And it was also about being committed to train and what coaching was all about. I had a dressage coach, a show jumping coach, a cross-country coach, and a sports psychologist. Now, and without those people, I would not have got to that level because my natural talent was nothing like what I achieved in the end through good coaching. So that was good.
Yeah, from a coaching front, I think that always can step you up another level. And I don't know if anyone's ever been exposed to a coach. Generally, it's a mindset thing, reality. A lot of mindset, a lot of how you think, how you're questioning. A really good coach will dig in and sort of probably ask more questions than actually anything. Yes, that's what I found across the journey of coaching, but we'll dig in a little bit more deep. But yeah, fascinating background. Always loved riding a horse, but not at that level, that's for sure.
No,
brilliant.
I'd like to have that. So anyway, after university, off to Price Waterhouse was my first job, apart from the teaching of horse riding. And that was great training ground, but it was very hard in the middle of Melbourne to keep training my horses and the professional career. So I found a really good accounting firm in the country that was progressive and one that I could actually keep developing my own professional skills, but also time to ride. So that was in Gippsland. And when I started there, we had 3 officers and I ended up helping them develop into 10 officers and 300 staff, and in the end, 9 partners. So we really grew it.
Significant, yeah.
impressive.
But in that area too, we weren't just accountants. We did a lot of development with our clients. We had our own credit society. We did insurance. We bought an AMP agency, which we also sold insurance to our clients. So I learned early on that once you've got a good client base, it's what else can you do with that client base that, because you get to know them well, you know what else they need, and you've got their trust. And that trust is so important because people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And that way you could develop that. Once we had the trust of the accounting and tax side, all the other was quite easy. And most people needed that process. And we only sold them what we knew they needed too.
Yeah.
That respect was important.
Making that product that right fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and also,
so
we
it's
stood
a
out
fit.
from other accountants. They didn't do that, of course. They just did the tax or accounting and often not terribly well. Whereas we could offer so much more to our clients. So our clients were a great referral base. And they'd tell their friends about us and their business associates. And that was our greatest way to grow the business, which was great.
How did you bring that together? Because I find that a business can be great in one area. They might be delivering a particular service or a particular product, and they really hone in and understand that. And to bring in other skill sets and other means of delivery or products or services, what were some of the challenges you had when doing that? Did you go through the acquiring process? I think you mentioned that. How did you bring that together? Because I think that's a good thing people could reflect on.
We made sure we had good people. We trained people internally, put a lot of time into our training, but also when we went into, say, an area like, for example, the insurance agency, we bought an AMP agent who was very successful, but he could see to be involved with us as a partner in our business. He had exposure to our clients that made his job so much easier. But we chose him because he was a top performer. And he was actually one of our clients, which is how we knew all about him. And so he came in bringing his expertise, and we then welded that together with us. We did the same with property development. We did most of the development along Southgate in the early days, providing all the training through that. But once again, our partner, there was a John Hopkins group. And so they provided all the development side and the marketing side. We provided the funding with our clients who'd love to be involved in that scenario to make some serious dollars. We sold as high risk. We said property development is not low risk, but the returns can be very good. And our clients wouldn't have had that exposure on their own right. So that they really enjoyed doing too.
Yep.
Yeah, fascinating.
Just finding the right opportunities to bring to people because you understand their business and their ins and outs of what they're doing.
Yeah.
You know how to make that right fit.
And we knew which clients to invite to do that, which one could afford it, but also afford the risk, because that was really important too, because being accountants, we were risk averse. So we want to look after our clients, because we thought long term. It wasn't short term burning clients at all. It was very much about the long term process.
Yeah, and that's a good way to look at it in terms of I would consider that how you partner with businesses in effect to add more value to your client base, and how you bring that together from a corporate structure. There's a different thing, but interesting model. And it's generally the way accounting practices work is more that partnering side of things and bringing on partners.
Yes.
But exposing into different areas makes a lot of sense. Okay. In terms of, so the setting up the accounting practices grew to 10 practices, I think you mentioned 300 staff. That was quite a big feat. What was after that for you?
Yeah, after that, I sold out and went back to the hospitality that I wanted to do from the early days.
Wow. You've gone back to where you wanted to start. Yeah.
But during that time, though, apart from specialising for the performance horse industry because of my horse association, I did a lot of work with hospitality in hotels and restaurants, etc., and became well known for that too. So I'd learned a lot about it too because I had a passion for it. So I bought a rundown conference centre at Woodend, and then we turned that around to really high-end conferencing and restaurant. We won lots of awards through the process. My whole marketing was revolved around inviting journalists. So I had journalists there every week. All it cost me was a overnight accommodation and a meal, and often I'd get a 2 or 3 page write-up with fabulous photos in Gourmet Traveller, Vogue, Delicious Magazine, The Age, Financial Review, plus all the TV programs like Postcards and so on would come along and film us too. So the cost was virtually nothing, but that was so invaluable, that free advertising. And of course, people will, in many cases, believe what's in the article as opposed to what's in an ad. And in most sites, I didn't spend any money apart from entertaining them on advertising and build a whole project around that. And of course, once certain magazines had read about us, other journalists were attracting us too. They wanted to come and see for themselves and also do their own write-ups too. And we also made sure we focused on what each magazine was. For example, we had the Edna Wally Garden. So for all the gardening magazines and horticulturalists, we focused on that, or on wine, or on local food, or on the conference market. It was all about business. So once again, it was looking at what our target market was and appealing to them.
Yeah, clever approach to getting exposure. Nice, very good. So you used, and I think you mentioned off the camera, you sold out of that as well.
Yes.
At Exeter. Yeah.
Sold out of that. And then after that, I was offered a role as CEO down at Fed Square running the Transport Hotel Group, which had 5 venues at Fed Square, including the well-known Taxi Kitchen. They brought me back in to rebrand it because it sort of lost its way. It was very successful when it first started, and then it really seemed to lose its way, even though it's a great location there. But that was disappointing. So I went there and just turned the whole place around within about 18 months. Once again, I got involved with the Melbourne Food and Wine Festival. They had their major events there. Because I'd worked with them at Capacity House, they knew who I was, so it was an easy introduction again. So as a result, they did the major events there at Taxi Kitchen. They had their Legends Dinner there. I changed the wine list to do Victorian only, given our location. So Victorian tourism loved that. So they started having all their major functions at our venues there too. The local winemakers throughout Victoria knew that we were focusing on Victorian wine, so they wanted to be there. And I was bold enough to say, if we don't see you here using our facilities and holding your own events here, your wine won't stay on the list. And they said, yeah, we get it. You know, it's a two-way thing. Look after us, we'll look after you. So that gave a whole new focus to the business that wasn't there before. And as I used to say, and we taught our team to all about the local wine, but if people came and wanted Margaret River wine, we'd say, go to Margaret River. Yeah, we're about seasonal, regional wines that we understand. You're in Victoria, enjoy what we've got to offer. We've got some of the best wines in the world. So there's no point having a wine that's from South Australia or Western Australia. And also I did that because the winemakers were some of my best customers, and they also referred, whereas someone from Margaret River, I'd never probably seen them.
No, you wouldn't see them at all. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. No, interesting philosophy in terms of how you approach things and partner and collaborate with people in business. I've picked that up already pretty quickly in terms of how you work and how you approach. In terms of all your experience in business, what has it taught you? So from coming from all the way down from accounting, PwC at the beginning, or even the horse riding business at the beginning, right through to operating restaurants, hospitality. What's some of the biggest things that you've learned along the journey? Maybe 3 things that you've taken away and say, okay, if I'm really going to start anything in an industry that maybe I don't know, these are 3 things I would consider.
Yeah, great question. Probably the first thing is that what makes you stand out from the crowd? What's your unique selling point? What do you do that's different that will attract your market so it's the people you want to work with? And I was always very targeted on who we wanted to work with. That one they had the right product, and also but more important, they were good to work with. We had a no dickhead policy always, and I still have that.
Yeah, it's a good policy. I think one of the best ones. People you enjoy hanging around with, having a good conversation with. It's important.
And even now with prospective clients, I'm really upfront that, my clients choose me and I choose my clients. And if I can't make a difference to their business, that they can see it's a really good return on investment, then I won't even offer them coaching or a business. But more importantly, are they going to be coachable? Are we have some fun doing it? If we don't do that, then there's no point. Life's too short. I don't need that.
Yep. No one needs the extra headache. It's a relationship. Absolutely. It has to work both ways. And
in fact, in the accounting, I used to have 3 other accountants' cards on my desk. And if someone came in that wanted to work with us, that I thought, no, it's not our target fit or they're going to be really painful, I'd give them a card so that we're not after you, but so-and-so down the road may be able to help you.
Yep.
And and my team loved that. If we had difficult clients, they loved that I was happy to send them elsewhere rather than have to put up with these difficult clients that were going to be a loss for us anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Usually they were hard to deal with. They were disorganised. They were bad payers. There was always a stream there.
They come with a lot of challenges sometimes, some people. Yes.
For those clients, you also then have the ability, it's not a negative conversation because you're giving them a solution still. It's not just saying, we don't help you, sort it out on your own. Having that ability to have that positive output regardless of how you feel about the relationship moving forward and redirecting them is always a good thing.
Thanks, Anthony. Yep, spot on. So that was really important too. But also, whatever we do, we're in sales. If you deal with people, you're in sales. So you need to learn how to sell. Even when I was teaching horse riding, I had to sell my expertise in that area, especially as an accountant. By doing all the other things we did, we were selling. We're better because we can offer you this, this, and this in the business too, that our competitors aren't doing. So, and even with friendships, you've got to put time into that. Look after your friends. It's not. It rewards. As I mentioned earlier, people do business or spend time with people they know, like, and trust, and it's all about relationship building, and that's so important in business.
In the end, it is all about relationships, and you learn that across business. And I think being in sales is predominantly what you are. If you're operating a business at the front and you're in front of people, that's it. It's sales and marketing 101. Provided you can back it up, that's really what business is. If you're not able to communicate or get your message out there, it becomes quite difficult to actually find, attract. Inspire is a word I look for, especially in a consulting frame. How do we inspire people and to consider working with us and really rub off on them? So that's one area that I find if you can inspire, it's easier to sell. If it's in the world of innovation that we work with, that's one area that I like to hone in on. But know, like, and trust, just old adages that people use, but they're true. They're there for a reason. And if people can trust what you can do, if you can showcase trust, build that quickly within a conversation by showcasing who knows what it might be, testimonials, client case studies, referrals, or references. Just think about how you might build trust in what you're doing, especially in the early days of business when people don't know who you are.
And Andrew, the best way I found it is to listen. You've got to be a listener. And if you can just listen and let people tell you what their issues are, what's important to them, that's the most critical thing. And that builds a relationship. And also, you know what to concentrate on too, what they need.
Oh, it's solving problems in what every business does, right? It's not just about selling picks and shovels. It's going to solve a problem in the end or help them get to a solution. So, listening makes a lot of sense. In the world of you're working with a number of different businesses and obviously coaching, what are you finding in the marketplace? How's it sort of traveling in your mind, and where are businesses at the moment?
I think it's tough at the moment because we've come out of the pandemic, of course, although most of my clients thrived in the pandemic. We made sure they were quick to adjust. Say, okay, where can we turn this to an advantage? And some of them had their best years ever during the pandemic.
Fascinating.
Those, like, for example, the restaurants that pivoted and started doing takeaway, etc., even the high-end restaurants did exceptionally well. There was one client of mine that was very successful in Melbourne, and when they pivoted, one Friday night they sent out 600 meals at high dollar figure. And they were a high-end restaurant. They weren't, and in fact, they were making more money because the government was paying most of their staff during the time when they had the wage just covered, but they didn't need them in the business because they didn't have to have front of house.
Waiter staff weren't there, Oh, wow.
And in fact, some of the wait staff were out delivering food. That was
that works. Give them a job too.
And did really well and built a reputation for that. And now ongoing, then they got a separate division doing the takeaway food, but not at the restaurant. They do it out of a factory somewhere cheaper. And that all turned around too.
So they created a new revenue stream, whole different business model and taken advantage of it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
600 meals, would that be more than what they would normally do in a sit-down restaurant? Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot. 600 meals is huge.
The number of seats, they couldn't seat that number of people. This place would always do at least 2 sittings a night, sometimes 3.
Yep.
But It was amazing. That's how they could turn around and provide employment and revenue and profits.
What do you find? What makes a good business owner that's willing to just move with the change? Because I feel like when there's big change, opportunity opens up. And if you're willing to look and question how you've been doing things and make that decision to say, okay, we'll draw a line in the sand, we're going to have to do something different. What do you find are the people in business that really do that well and are successful in that? Do they just move with the times and just say, okay, yep, we're happy with change, we can evolve with it and just learn as we go? Or do you find that they're more strategic in their approach, think about it, look at all the angles and then make a decision? What's some of the insights that you found on the journey of those people that really take advantage of those opportunities?
Yeah, great question. What I start with all of my clients, especially new clients, say, okay, where do you want to be? And the most important thing I'll try and get across is I want to build for them a business that can work without them. So it's because most cases, it's the owners that hold the business back. Yes, they might be the leader. Yes, they might be the founder and they drive it. However, they can't be all things to everybody. So they're better off putting people around them in systems they've developed so they know that they're going to follow a system. They have good people that are well trained, well looked after, and they have good KPIs so they know how they're measured and how they're going, what's expected from them, and that's what will grow the business. And having that team approach, you've not just got one person. You've got the owner or owners, and they may drive the business, but they're relying heavily on a really good team around them. And by doing that, it doesn't restrict growth. I used to find with my team, we used to do always a SWOT analysis, which I know is very old-fashioned, but what we loved about it, though, I had the whole team involved. And often it was the youngest person or least experienced had some of the best ideas because they didn't have that history behind them or we'd always done it that way. And they questioned why we did certain things and often came up with great ideas. But also the whole team understood what we're trying to achieve because they're all involved in that. So with each of the SWOT, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats, everything we did, we then allocated to one of the team members. And their role is to either improve it, research, maintain, depending on what it was, so that it was always, we dealt with it. Because often I see with clients, they do a SWOT analysis. It's great on the day, but then nothing happens afterwards. They get back to the coalface. They're so busy trying to run the business that nothing happens.
Yeah, it's back to business as usual sometimes.
Yeah. So by allocating to an individual, they took ownership. They felt part of the business. It meant so much more than just trying to solve or maintain that problem. But also then it was reviewed. In another 12 months' time, we do it again. It's okay, let's start off with what it was 12 months ago, how we moved.
It's that incremental improvement, right? Continuously looking at business, solving problems within it, because no business is perfect. And I think you realize that pretty quickly that it is always there's always a problem to solve within the confines of any business. And it's prioritizing those and looking at what's going to deliver the most value or get you to that end game or in that you're targeting. So, yeah, good place to always start. In terms of working with a coach, why would you recommend someone engage as a coach, especially in the world of business? I know I would give you some answers, but I'd like to hear from you. What are some of the things and reasons why a business should engage with a coach? They've either in early stages or they've got a business that's operating, but they may be plateauing. What's some of the things that a coach can bring to the conversation?
For a start, they can stand back and look at the business. They can see the wood through the trees because they're not emotionally involved. And also that if they're good coaches, they've had experience in a range of clients and a range of businesses. But more importantly, a good coach has owned businesses. You've got to have the runs on the board, and you've got to have those times where you don't know how you're going to pay the wages. And when you've got that small comes through.
The reality of business, mate. It happens. Yeah, it happens.
I see like consultants say that they've only ever been on wages. They've never had that process of really when a buck stops here. And that to me is really important, to have that empathy with business owners. And that way you get the respect too.
Yeah.
But to me, it's about holding accountable. It's actually setting visions and goals and then monitoring that and then holding people accountable. My coaches to the horse riding, that's where I learned, they held me accountable. They pushed me beyond what I thought I could achieve. Smartly though, they knew that by a gradual process that I could improve beyond what my natural ability was. And I think that's the same with business too. If you've got a good strategy there and you've got someone that's holding you accountable and looking at the next steps so that it's not too overwhelming. So with my clients, yes, we look at long-term goals where they want to be, but then I break it down to 90-day plans. So in the next 90 days, what are we going to achieve that heads towards our major goals in the future? So what's the most important thing we need to do now in the next 90 days that's going to build the business or maintain it or grow it or franchise, a whole range of things they could be wanting to do with the business. But it's got to be broken down into steps. And that's where a good coach can make a huge difference, because it's so overwhelming yourself in your own business that to have someone who can stand back and help you strategize it makes a big difference.
And with that experience, I think one of the key things is, if you're going to work with a coach, work with someone that's been in business, I think that's a must.
Oh, that's a given.
I would agree with that is a must. Yeah, I would. Yeah. Hand on my heart, would have never worked with anyone that's never been in business because they don't understand the challenges that you have as being a business owner. Because it's no smooth sailing. We started our business in 2008, so way back when. We were two kids out of uni. It's the reality. Anthony was still studying. He was doing his master's. And we thought it might be a bright idea to try and start something. That was if I went back to that person at that age, I would have said, go get a job first. But it's been a fun learning experience. And I think there's been times, like you said, you don't know how you're going to pay the bills. And there's times where things are going that great that you don't, everything just seems to be flowing. And there's moments in business where you make a decision that we need to invest here and strategize here, and that's completely a wrong decision. And you're reflecting on, shit, I wasted $250,000 investing in this area or whatever it might be. And that's business. There's no silver bullet in terms of business, but I think it's just one of the big things from a coaching perspective, or just having advisors from the outside in. It's like that young person that's in the business. They don't necessarily understand the business end to end or why it's done things in a certain way. And that will give you different reflections, and having different insights from different industries is a big thing. So a coach that's been in just in your industry may not be the best coach, I think. I think having people with different perspectives is also an interesting way to take it, because you will learn something from one industry you can bring to another that can really change the way and the dynamic and how you operate and differentiate quite quickly. So that's my sort of 2 cents on the coaching world and how I would frame it. But the 90-day plan, it's a must, because when we look at if we've got a big goal ahead of us, sometimes that can be overwhelming, and it's like, Jesus, how the hell are we going to get there? If you can break it down into, all right, if we hit this in 90 days and we tick this, and this off, you start to establish momentum and a bit of belief, because in the end, it's all really a belief system. Do we believe we're going to get there? And in the world of your horse riding days, I would imagine you had a frame of where you were in the world, the confines of competition, but as soon as you improve in one area or achieve something new, your belief system changes, and then all of a sudden you're in a different category. So it's the same in business in my sort of thinking back as to how it sort of impacted us over the journeys. Yeah.
And I think that's spot on, Andrew, what you said there too. Mm-hmm. And I know with my horse riding, because I was also professional, I was involved in starting a horse riding group. So I was on the Equestrian Federation of Australia and involved all the decision making too. And that also gave me responsibilities, and I learned a lot from that too. But because I was a pretty good horse rider, but not as good as the really top ones, but I was respected, and they wanted me to do the other roles they couldn't do. So that was a great introduction too, I think. So it's whatever we do, you can apply those to whatever else you're doing and build it as a whole, and make sure that greater the sum parts obviously bigger than each individual part.
Yeah, brilliant. In terms of a business, this is always a question. Working in and on the business, you will get that. the balance can sometimes be challenging within business. It's you're putting out fires, you're trying to solve the current day's problem, but you're trying to work towards a 2-3 year plan or a 12-month plan or that 90-day plan. How do you balance that when things become a little bit overwhelming in the day-to-day?
By setting up good systems. I'm a great believer in systems, and the system might start with just a checklist. That's the first stage, what we have to do to go through the process. And if you've got people, I get them to do their own. If there's not proper systems in place, those they say, what did you do today? What do you do to get your role done? What has to happen? And you start with a checklist, and that eventually develops into basically an office manual, that this is how we do it in our business. Because if you don't have that system there, even the best of people will do it their way, thinking they're doing the right thing, but may not be what you want to achieve in the business, or they may not understand the whole process. And consistency is so important. Delivering a good quality project can only be done if you've got good systems to back that up, so that you can counteract problems. But with problems, I used to love it when things went wrong, because that gives an opportunity to fix it and build a relationship. Because, for example, in a restaurant, if you go along and you have good food and good service, you sort of expect that. But if something goes wrong and your team over-deliver, I don't mean giving away free drinks or anything, it's one, listening, two, thanking them for what went wrong, and we used to say, look, come back again, let's get it right, and we'll look after you. And so we built a relationship, and often they become our best customers because we'd established a rapport with them because we cared. And that was the big difference, whereas sometimes you don't have the opportunity to show that.
Yeah, fascinating. And care is very important in the world of business, putting customers top of mind and building empathy around their perspective and where they are. So in our world, we work with a lot of customers that are been building technology and had a lot of challenges along the journey, and that's tough. And working with one, I won't name names, but person at the moment who has spent a hell of a lot of money and is probably at his last end as to how much he can invest in what he's trying to achieve. And he sort of put his hand in heart and said, this is all I've got to get this right. And I said, well, let's just slow down before you speed up then, because if we're going to just keep moving and you're moving in the wrong direction, then where are you going to end up? You're going to hit a wall, and there's no other place to go for you. So I just sat with him, understood his world, and really got to where he was, and really just slowed him down, built. I would say building trust, but also showcasing how you can help him get from where he is now to actually where he needs to be, and showcasing that maybe what he was thinking is not where he needs to be. So that's more of a coaching setting, and I find that we can be in the world as consultants. You can sort of be in the world a bit of coaching too, because if you're a good consultant, you're going to be also coaching and advising and guiding along the journey. So, it's a fascinating world, the world of business, but that care piece, and just having that time, energy, and just really getting to know people and who they are and what they're trying to achieve. It's 101. It's probably it's the best thing you can do in business, because you understand them, and then you can really deliver from the front of who they are. Not just what your business does in a process. I think sometimes I've been in that place where we'll sell our process, but our process doesn't really fit what the client needs. They need a different way of thinking or a different process. So sometimes you have to evolve with the client too, and that care piece helps you get there.
But a good system will allow you to do that, of course.
Yeah, definitely.
So because number one, as you said, is what the client needs.
Yes.
And some they don't know themselves what they need.
Most of them don't.
Most of the time they don't.
And you would find that too, I would imagine. Most don't really know what they need. They're just coming. They would have a problem, and their problem might be lack of revenue, or their problem might be, I need more customers. It's generally in the world of business. Key problems are, I'm not making enough money, or business is stagnant, or business is declining. They're probably things you see quite often, I would imagine. And people are looking, how do I change, evolve, innovate, do something different?
Where I'm lucky, apart from owning these broad base of businesses in the past, but as an accountant too, I've worked with so many different businesses and seeing what works and what doesn't. I can apply that history and background to a whole range of businesses too, because, and as you said before, I don't have to know about that to business, because in fact, better I don't. It's better I dig down and ask more questions and challenge why you're doing certain things. That way, it helps cement a much better business model rather than knowing too much about it, because it's applying other skills and techniques that make a big difference.
It's a Milton, who's your ideal client? Like, we're obviously talking about business, and some of the most important things are how you consider, how you strategize, build some accountability. If someone's interested in talking to you about coaching, who's the ideal client for Milton?
Yeah, ideal client is someone that wants to grow and develop their business. That's someone who is coachable, and that's really important too. It's got to be someone, as I said before, they've got to be fun to work with, because then you'll both achieve so much more. Because then you'll develop respect for each other and have some fun along the way. But also, it's got to be a business worth working towards, because I've had some clients say, well, look, really, this business is going nowhere, get out. Do something else, because for whatever reason, it doesn't have a future. Because you might love it, but unless you've got potential clients that love it, how are you going to sell it?
It's not really business.
What's the point?
Is it? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I have seen, I've seen that before. Or they've got the wrong skills, and I can see they're not going to be able to develop those skills to run that type of business too. Then, but better suited going elsewhere, or in some cases being an employee. Because so often I know in the accounting world, I had clients that, they'd leave really good paying jobs to run their own business and never earn that sort of money again. And not that money's everything, that's far from it. There were other reasons why they wanted to do it, but in hindsight, they bought themselves a poor paying job.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it?
And I see that in so many businesses.
The reality is they're probably good at what they did, but business is not just the doing, it's everything else around it. Yeah. It's the sales, it's the marketing, it's the communication, it's the managing team, it's the leadership skills, it's the accounting skills. If you don't have those, you can put yourself in a big hole pretty quickly. And there's so many things in between. It's not just about the delivery, because generally people that rock up into a business, and we started that, we'll focus on deliver product, but reality is that's 10%, 20% of the business, because there's all these other moving parts.
That's the same thing.
I think trades are even more obvious. Like often I'd see a plumber who's a good plumber and decided he wanted to go out on his own. And they're straight away, yes, he was a good plumber, but he had no idea about accounting and marketing and getting new clients. Yep. And usually his poor wife would be dragged into it, who had less skills, and she'd have to do all the bookkeeping and all the paperwork and book appointments and everything else. One probably didn't want to be doing that, didn't have the skill set, had no training, but that seemed to be typical.
It's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. It's the
you don't get taught any of that stuff generally.
No one teaches you that unless you're willing to learn it, or you actually go to an MBA or something like that to give you some context or a focused area, and you'd learn it as you go. Anthony is our key architect, CTO in the business, and loves marketing. So he goes and plays in marketing and writes articles and enjoys that
content
space.
about what I know.
Yeah, it's interesting. So you'll find that you might like other areas of business too, once you get exposed to business. But
the accounting and that section, don't like that at all. People,
but
I'm
not
a great people side
in,
either.
Unless you want to learn or develop those skills, employ someone who's got those skills. Because in some cases, you're much better off with the right planning, and you obviously got to have the cash flow to do it, but in planning to get the best skills to do it, I've always tried to surround myself with people better than me in skills, and I've always never been frightened that I want someone much smarter than me to be doing those different roles, and it pays off. And they stay.
You're better off hiring someone to do the jobs you don't like, because you'll never do them as good as the jobs you do like.
Exactly.
Simple as that.
I agree. That, or you might have the skill set, or the ability to, be honest. It's
everyone's different, and everyone likes different things. And if you're doing stuff you don't like 80% of the time, you're not going to enjoy your business.
Yeah, and you won't do it right either. You won't put all the 100% effort in.
Exactly.
You don't like it, so you don't commit to it properly.
You're better off using your skill where you're earning $300, $400, $500 an hour, and then pay someone $30 or $40 to do the bookkeeping or something. That's crazy because you're probably a lousy bookkeeper anyway. Hate doing it.
Yeah, as long as you understand what the opportunity cost is, you can make that decision and understand if it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yep, spot on.
Oh, brilliant, Milton. If anyone wants to find out about you, what's the best place to find you? Obviously on LinkedIn, Milton Collins. And then you mentioned you've got a website, I believe.
LinkedIn, and the website is miltoncollins.actioncoach.com. Or just Google me, Milton Collins. I'm sort of all over the place. Facebook, me.
We'll put those links out when we...
I've been around a while, so you know.
Yeah. We'll put those links up when we post the episode.
But thanks for joining us, Milton. It's been a good conversation around holistically how we can think about business and some of the challenges we might find on the journey and the advantages of coaches. We've got coaches in our business and have had probably for about 7-8 years. So it's always important to surround yourself with good people, advisors, people that can think differently and give you different perspectives. And that's what I find with any coach. It's all about different perspectives and opening up the blinkers or the blind spots to what you don't know and what else might be possible. So thank you again for joining us on DevReady Podcast, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the time. Thoroughly enjoyed talking to you both. It's great.
Cheers, Milton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.